Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Icon Edit, the show where we are becoming unbelievably gorgeous and disgustingly overeducated. My name is Monet, fellow icon in training and host of our show. So I do all my research. I share anything and everything I learn with you guys, and you share anything and everything back with me, so we can all grow hotter and more educated together. So be sure to invite all our fellow icons in training, any of you beautiful baddies who want to know more than just the surface level information, and get down into the nitty gritty with us. So I'm trading out my book of the week for my obsession of the week, because there's just so much I want to share with you guys that I'm currently obsessed with. Right now, it is my Clinique. I am deciding this is going to be one of my staples, just the Clinique Almost lipstick. I have not gone a single day without wearing either the natural or the black honey. And like I said, if you've seen my last episode where I rank them all, the pink one is also super cute, but just not my color. So I think Clinique is one of my staples, if you will, specifically the black honey. Go check out my old episode if you want to get your favorites, see them all on me, and such. Comment your current obsession of the week, something that you think I need to try, whether it be food, drinks, makeup, whatever it is, because I am here to learn and explore with all of you guys. Sorry, I feel so awkward today. I don't know what it is. It's like extra quiet in my house or something. So if you're catching the awkwardness, I'm sorry, I'll work through it. Let's just get started with my topic of today, because today's topic is one I've been wanting to do for a while, and researching it has changed my personality a little bit. So I'm getting into Aphrodite, the goddess of beauty, but so much more than that. And there's so much to her history that is just absolutely fascinating. In studying her, I can understand why her priestesses who studied and worshipped her probably acted in a certain way, dressed in a certain way, viewed themselves in the world that we're in a certain way, because studying Aphrodite has made me implicitly want to act differently, to spend a little bit extra time on my feminine needs and beauty, and appreciate just the beauty of life, because I'm constantly in the grind of learning, improving, but every once in a while it's so fun to just bask in what is already around you, what you already have, how beautiful you already are. And I think Aphrodite is the perfect goddess for that. And if you are into that lover archetype, I've always wanted to be that lover archetype who just prioritizes love, beauty, joy, pleasure above all. While I don't think that's sustainable all of the time, and I don't think I could physically do that just given my personality, it is so fun to be able to, I guess, play that role and bring that personality in every once in a while. I always like to say I have multiple personalities for what I need. I have a CEO personality, I have my lover personality, but since studying Aphrodite and the other goddesses, I found it's actually easier for me to think, oh, I want to be like Athena right now, very logical, unemotional, very strategic. And then there's moments where I'm like, hey, bring on my Aphrodite. Let's just be beautiful. Let's just enjoy the beauty. Let's just see what's around us. So, with all of that, I think this is where these stories, these studies, are very interesting, and I understand why in the past people would call on Athena when they were needing to be strategic, would call on Aphrodite when they wanted to seduce their lover, would call on Hera when they were having marital issues. It makes sense. It makes sense to bring in that sort of divine power. But anyway, let me just get into my script here. So she didn't have a mother. She didn't have a childhood. She wasn't born. She emerged in the ocean foam, fully formed, devastating. And then in the very first act of her being alive, she walked into a room full of gods, and every single one of them instantly fell silent. Her name was Aphrodite, and she is by a significant margin the most consequential woman in all of Western mythology. Today we are doing her full story, her history, because I don't know about you guys, but before getting into this, I only knew Aphrodite for her beauty, the flowers. I didn't know anything about her story, which is insane. We're gonna get into it. The fact that she had two stories and how they all converge and sometimes don't converge, and she's actually staying as two separate people, but let's just get into it. So we're gonna get into her origin, her myths, her legacy, and what she was actually trying to study, or what she was actually trying to tell us. Why do work always text me right in the middle of this? Oh my god. We are back. I don't know why work always tends to come up at 7:30, only when I'm recording. It is so weird. And anyway, let's just get right back into it. So let's get into the origin story of Aphrodite. She was born from violence, but she was beautiful from the very beginning. And I think it's a very interesting balance of she's born from balance and chaos, but she is the epitome of beauty. It really shows the Greek understanding or perception of chaos and war and beauty and pain and how it all converges and goes hand in hand. But anyway, there were two different versions of where Aphrodite came from. Both were recorded by Greek literary gods. I guarantee you've heard both of these names, or literary giants, excuse me. And they're both considered true, and that's why it's kind of weird. And the contradiction was so significant that Plato, everyone's heard of Plato, had to write an entire philosophical theory around these two separate origins. So version 1 comes from Hesiod's. I know I'm pronouncing that wrong. Hesiod's version. Hesiod's, I don't know. Kronos, who is the father of Zeus, castrated his father, Uranus, I believe it's Uranus, the king of the sky. He overthrew his father and as punishment or whatever, castrated him and threw his newly castrated genitals into the ocean. From the resulting foam of his testicles arrived Aphrodite, fully formed, completely beautiful, fully grown. And in this version, she has no mother and no father surviving presence. Uranus obviously never dies, but he is never around as he is in Tartarus. And she was born of the act of violence from these two incredibly powerful cosmic forces. She simply appeared. Version 2 comes from Homer. I feel like we've all heard of Homer, right? And his telling, Aphrodite is the actual daughter of Zeus and a titaness named Dione. More conventional, more political, still divine, but with a lineage, a family, and a place in the hierarchy of Olympus. Greeks really couldn't reconcile the two, so Plato decided they were both right. His solution, there are actually two Aphrodites. One representing heavenly, transcendent love, something above the physical lust and desire, and that's the one who is born from the balls of Kronos, or Uranus. And one is representing earthly, physical desire. That's where the physical lust, love, desire for beauty comes in. He calls them Aphrodite Urania and Aphrodite Pandemos. The point of all of this, she contained multitudes before she was even a concept. Something that's also interesting is she is older than Greece itself. This is the part of Aphrodite that nobody actually talks about or realizes. Aphrodite is probably not originally Greek. Her deepest roots are traced back to the Phoenician goddess Astarte and the Mesopotamian goddess Nana. I'm gonna put the breakdown. I always just read them in my head. I have a way of reading them and then I say them out loud and I'm like, oh, that sounds so stupid. I'll put the phonetic breakdown down there. So if you guys want to talk about this, you don't have to sound like an idiot like me. This Mesopotamian goddess Inanna, also known as Ishtar, and I feel like we've heard of Ishtar before, or at least I have. Both goddesses of love, war, and fertility, and the sky. So much more than just lust, love, and beauty. The worship of divine feminine force that's governing beauty and desire predates the Greeks by thousands of years. So the concept of this Aphrodite being was far beyond the Greeks, far before the Greeks, I mean. Her most ancient cult site is not on Athens. It was in Cyprus, actually. And in the myth where she is castrated balls of Kronos, that is where she lands. Specifically in Paphos, where a female fertility goddess has been worshipped as early as 3000 BCE. So it's almost like there is some sort of divine power out there that humans have been naturally magnetized to, lured towards. I guess that doesn't make sense. There is this divine feminine presence that has been around for thousands and thousands of years before the concept of Zeus, Poseidon, Athena, all these other god figures. Before it all, I think there was always women praying to a goddess of fertility to help them with childbirth, to help them find a kind husband, for them to be their most beautiful feminine selves. When the Greeks arrived, they did not even invent her. They just absorbed her. They adopted her. When she walked into Greek mythology, she was an ancient figure, an ancient study. And let's get into who she actually was, because she was so much more than just the goddess of love. This is what every basic overview of Aphrodite gets wrong. They call her the goddess of love and then they stop there, as if she had this small domain. Aphrodite was the goddess of love, beauty, desire, sexuality, and fertility, and less famously, war and seafaring. She was worshipped at Sparta, at Thebes, at Cyprus, not just as a romantic goddess. Her domain was really not soft. It was very, very primal. She governed the force, this incredible force that makes people just do irrational things, leave marriages, start wars, create empires, build cathedrals. She essentially governed the thing that hides beneath human motivation, and that is desire. In every book I've read about the Olympians, Greek gods, Aphrodite is always respected as the most powerful, but as the least power hungry, which is interesting. Let's get into all of her symbols. We know how important it is for a god to have a symbol. Zeus has his lightning bolt. Poseidon has his trident. Let's talk about Aphrodite's because they are a symbol of power, and every time you see these symbols, it is like an essence of Aphrodite. So the rose, obviously, it is the rose because beauty and pain are absolutely inseparable. That duality was very intentional. Another symbol of hers was the dove. She got multiple symbols, which is also kind of special for the gods. Dove symbolized peace, and that doesn't mean the absence of power, but simply the choice not to use it indiscriminately. Next is the myrtle. In ancient Greece, myrtle was placed on graves and at weddings. She governed both love and loss, beginnings and endings. And of course, the mirror, not vanity, self-knowledge. The woman who knows what she looks like holds power. Of course, the scallop shell, the vehicle of her arrival. Now let's get into this goddess's personality. This is the complicated part of Aphrodite. She was vain. She was jealous. She was loyal to those who honored her and devastating to those who dismissed her. She had affairs. She manipulated outcomes. She started a war because she wanted to win a beauty contest, but she was also generous. She gave life to Pygmalion's statue simply because he prayed with his whole heart and needed love. She wept for Adonis in a way that turned grief into flowers. She was not just one thing, she was filled with so much range and depth. Hi, let's take a quick break. If you are still here, that tells me you absolutely belong here. You're not just here for the foo-foo. You're not just here for the aesthetics. You are here to actually learn, to gain the knowledge, the mythology, the history. Girl, we're going to be besties. Make sure you subscribe. Join me in my journey to become unbelievably gorgeous, disgustingly overeducated, as intellectually beautiful and powerful as possible. And let's get back to it. Let's get into some of her myths, the ones that are very important that change the Western mythology world. Of course, there's myth number 1, the judgment of Paris, which started the famous 10-year Trojan War. There's the wedding of Peleus and Thetis, the parents of Achilles. Thetis being a gorgeous, powerful myriad. This was a huge social event, the marriage of this nymph and this mortal. The nymph was pissed. Thetis was known to be beautiful, but there was also a prophecy that her child would overthrow the gods. So Zeus and Poseidon were like, crap, she's way too tempting for us. We need to marry her off to a mortal, make sure she has that son with her mortal so that it never reaches the same level of power as if we were to conceive with her. So there's this big social event. Everyone is invited, every god except Eris, the goddess of discord, of course. So Eris showed up anyway, as the goddess of discord would, and threw a golden apple into the party, inscribed with these 3 words, to the fairest. Hera stepped forward, Athena stepped forward, Aphrodite stepped forward. Zeus, who at least had the wisdom to stay out of it, appointed a mortal to judge Paris, Prince of Troy. Hera offered Paris dominion over all of Asia, power over kingdoms. Athena offered him unparalleled skill and knowledge in war and strategy. Aphrodite offered him the most beautiful woman in the world. This was Helen of Sparta, the woman that he would want the very most. And of course, with that, with all of those offers, he chose Aphrodite. Helen was retrieved, Troy burned for 10 years, the Iliad was written, and Western literature was born. I want to point out something very interesting. Aphrodite did not offer the most rational thing. If he was rational, he would have wanted strategy in war, probably, a reason to protect herself and gain power. She offered the thing that actually moves people, and she won. And then there's myth 2. This myth is really fun. And this is the myth of Ares and how she just absolutely refused to be contained, because I think desire and love in its essence is known to be uncontrollable, uncontained. You can't make it do anything. And her energy is always in capturing that. It's always this free energy. And even Ares, her lover, is aware, like, I am hers, but she will never be mine. Zeus arranged her marriage to Hephaestus. If you know Hephaestus, he's the god of the forge. He is known as the ugliest god. He was literally thrown out of the heavens when he was born due to his ugliness. He was very brilliant, but especially for a god, just not the most attractive. He was socially awkward. He was not her choice. So she took Ares as her lover. Ares, Hephaestus's brother, god of war, the most violent primal force on Olympus. The most primal force, I would say, besides her. When Hephaestus caught them, and he actually caught them in an invisible net, she was unapologetic. She's like, what are you gonna do? She did not beg. She did not perform shame. She was built for a life much larger than the one that she has been contained to. And she was living accordingly. She was not about to be tied to Hephaestus. Now let's get into her legacy and how she is so important in Western culture. Aphrodite's fingerprints are on Western culture more than any other figure, I would say. In art, I'm gonna have to read my phonetics here. The first full-scale female nude in Western culture was Praxiteles' Aphrodite of Cnidus. Of Cnidus. It was sculpted in 4th century BC. It was very controversial, and it became the template, just how Aphrodite became the standard for female beauty. The Venus de Milo, 2nd century BCE, is still one of the most visited artworks on the planet. Botticelli's Birth of Venus is one of the most reproduced images in human history. She's standing on the shell, wind blowing in her hair. There's actually a really good art history video, Monet, link it in here, and it's actually what started my obsession with Aphrodite. It's so interesting. That image doesn't just live in a museum, it literally lives in human culture. It is so significant. In Rome, she founded an empire. When Romans absorbed Greek mythology, Aphrodite became Venus, and the Romans made her a founding myth. Her son Aeneas fled from burning Troy and founded what would later become Rome. Julius Caesar, yes, the Julius Caesar, claimed descent from Aphrodite through this lineage. He literally claimed he was related to her. The most powerful man in the ancient world traced his bloodline to the goddess of love. Is that not fascinating? And it's interesting because she had a play in language too, a lasting play in language. Think of the word aphrodisiac, comes directly from her name. Every time someone uses that word, they are unknowingly invoking the 3,000-year-old goddess. The planet Venus is named after her Roman counterpart. Her symbol is literally the biological marker of femininhood, of womanhood, In worship at her sanctuary in Paphos in Cyprus, the rules were very strict. There was no blood sacrifice, only incense from Arabia, libations of olive oil, honey, and wine. Lilies, violets, roses, and myrtle were all grown there. There were lotus ponds, arches of roses, and this incidentally is actually why we trade 250 million roses on Valentine's Day. She started that. Aphrodite is not just a story of a pretty goddess who caused problems. She is the story of a woman who understood that desire is one of the most powerful forces in existence, and who built an entire domain around knowing that she in fact is the most powerful. She didn't offer wisdom, she didn't offer power in the traditional sense. She offered something that moves humans to their core, the thing that they want most. She refused a marriage that diminished her, and she won every single time. She grieved openly and created something beautiful from her grief. She was not one version of herself. She was the full range of what it means to be a woman in a world that continually tries to assign you a smaller role. She made flowers grow wherever she walked. Study her, worship her. There is still something to her power, or to whatever this energy, this being's power is, that has existed for so long, that has very real credibility and power even today. That is all from me today, guys. If you want to get into actually how to embody her energy, I feel like this week was kind of the study, next week is a worship. We're going to get into how to embody this goddess of beauty, sexuality, desire, love in your daily life. So you're definitely going to want to watch that. Please subscribe if you are somebody who values the story, the history of becoming the most beautiful, educated, amazing woman alive. That is what I'm here to do. Basically, I want to be the very best, and I want my community to be filled with the very best. And we're just building off of each other, becoming better, constantly, every day. New episodes every Tuesday, and go follow my TikTok for my daily challenges, quotes of the day, and my personal Instagram just to get to know a little bit more about me. I love to travel, explore, and I'm constantly learning and growing. At least I'm trying all the time. I'm still human, but my job is fun too. Like I said, catering and events director, so I work with a lot of pretty things, a lot of good food, and really, really cool people. So I genuinely love and appreciate you guys so much. I hope this helped you today and inspired you, and you can all be your amazing goddesses of beauty